Hey, yo, how are you? Good evening, good Monday to you. I hope you are doing absolutely fantastic. It is I, the Dungeon Delver, Bill Sylvie, coming at you live like nobody else does. Nobody else does. And I hope you're all doing well. Hey, I just wanted to let you guys know that tonight's live stream is brought to you by Hellebarde Games. Hellebarde publishes the modules that we would like to play, with offerings for OSR, Castles and Crusades, and 5th edition. No matter what rules you use, old school gaming is at the table. You can grab Hellebarde modules on DriveThruRPG or at their website, hellebardegames.com. Check them out. They're great people. They even published something of mine. So anyway, hello, Elf Bait, Jimmy Invictus, Death Angels, Jack Photon, Connect, Jimmy Invictus, Danny H, or is it Danny Mead? Good to see you. That's it. Fuchsia Cone. Hello, hello. But anyway, I hope you guys had an absolutely fantastic weekend. I really do. I had a pretty good one myself. I can't complain. It was nice to wrap up the week with a positive announcement from Wizards of the Coast. Yes, I said that. Aaron Smith. Good to see you, Aaron. But anyway, yeah, no, that was quite the announcement on Friday evening from Wizards of the Coast. And I certainly don't want to continue the abuse of a deceased equine. We all know what happened. I talked a little bit about it on a video earlier today. My general feelings on what is going on over there. Honestly, I think it boils down to something that I said. I discussed this with Ty Beard once upon a time regarding the lawsuit that went on between Tracy Hickman, Margaret Weiss, and Wizards of the Coast. The minute it dropped in the pot, I promise you someone from legal at Hasbro was leaning on the person who made that decision saying, fix this. So that is almost certainly what they had been doing. Now, again, I don't want to belabor the point because we've talked about this and talked about this. When I said we've won, it is a campaign we've won. It's not the whole quote-unquote war. Hasbro as an entity has next to zero interest in pen and paper role-playing games. They don't care. D&D is in the hands of people who don't care about Dungeons and Dragons. They don't care about you moving an expertly painted miniature across some terrain. Jimmy Invictus, thank you. Thank you so much. Here's to a well-earned victory. That's a campaign ribbon. Okay, that's a campaign ribbon. We don't have the full victory star cluster yet. That's a campaign ribbon, but I'll take it and I'll wear it with pride, as you all should. But ultimately, I think, and this is, I'm not being black-pilled, guys. All right. I'm not going back on anything that I've said. Don't be black-pilled. Okay. But ultimately, I think what we're going to see is someone at Hasbro, under pressure from investors, is going to say, look, just do this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's things in retail called loss leaders. Do you think Microsoft makes any money on the Xbox? They don't. Every Xbox Microsoft sold, every original Xbox, cost the company like $10, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's happened twice. It doesn't sound like a lot, but they sold millions of Xbox, and it's like basically they just handed $10 out to everybody. Except Microsoft would never do that. Dave Mills, greetings. Collecting chaos. Yes, I'm kind of going over that right now. The reality settling in. But Microsoft didn't care. because Microsoft wanted you using Xbox Live. Microsoft wanted money from developers to develop games. All right. Hasbro, if they remain profitable, will hit a point where they'll look at us, they'll look at you, they'll look at the fans complaining on Twitter and go, and just push on through. We're Transformers, we're My Little Pony, we're Barbie doll, we're the little Dora thing where you squeeze the buttons and make the rings float up and try and hook on them on the hooks to win. All right, that's all D&D is to them. Okay, they don't care about Gary hosting Gen Con 1 in his basement. They don't care about how many times you have Killoth and Queen of the Demon Web Pits, or the fact that you met the love of your life at the gaming table, or that you get choked up every time you see your basic set on the shelf because the uncle who gave it to you is no longer with you. They don't care. I think even TSR cared about that. Lorraine Williams didn't like gamers and thought she was above them, but I think she cared about the game at least. I mean, Brian and Kevin Bloom used to design RPG stuff for TSR. But that's kind of our enemy. That's kind of our enemy, and we're going to have to live with the fact that the day is going to come when they look at it and say, we can afford to piss these people off now. We don't need them anymore. Let them screech and make noise. What are we losing? Okay? We, as gamers, and that includes us in the old school, okay? And look, again, guys, I'm not blackpilling here, okay? I'm not trying to demoralize you. They don't care about Bogo Jort's origin story. I'm not trying to demoralize you. We just need to understand this, okay? It's like a kamikaze knowing that they're going to get shot down before they make it, right? It's just something that you understand. But here's the thing. They literally don't care. We are less than nothing to them. And if you take the $100 or $200 a year you might have spent on role-playing game products and give it to Paizo instead of them, or just don't spend it at all, you get completely demoralized. That's fine with them. They don't mind. They'll reach a critical mass where they don't mind. And they do have time on their side. But I'm going to tell you, we should celebrate this for now, okay? And let's revel in this. Let's revel in this. I mean, on a long enough timeline, we're all just a absolute zero cloud of gluons and down quarks, you know? I mean, think about that. In an unimaginable amount of time, even the near indestructible first edition AD&D books are just going to be free-floating clouds of something else. Oh, and sure, Paizo would definitely appreciate the money a lot more. But flip the script. Let's say Paizo had Hasbro money. That's FU customer levels of money. And then Paizo wouldn't care either. I mean, I would appreciate the money if I was publishing anything, but I don't know if you guys would buy anything that I self-published. I hope so, because I'm working on something with Tracy Lesh. That's still going to happen. Whether I have to publish it under the Collective Commons or the OGL 1.0a or however it gets published. So that is definitely, that's something that's coming. Speaking of things to publish, I want to share this with you guys. Look, I'm not getting any part of this, okay? But I want to put this right in here. We had Heidi Gygax and Eric Garland on last Thursday, and it was a lot of fun. I had a blast. If you didn't get in on their Kickstarter, it funded while they were on the show. I don't want to say anything about my show being some like force majeure in the industry, right? But let's just say that it did fund. So they have hit their first stretch goal. They are this close to hitting their next stretch goal. So if you want to throw them a few bucks, they have some really cool stuff in the pipeline. Check them out right over there. That is Heidi Gygax and Eric Garland with a really fun looking module. Adam Black asks, is my future Project 1E compatible? Absolutely, unquestionably. I can't say how. No, I literally can't. Like, I can't put it to words. I would get in trouble. But if you read it and you go, oh my gosh, this is right in Nuh, where Nuh, the value of Nuh is a first edition AD&D product. If you make that judgment reading it, you are probably correct. If you make that judgment reading it, if you go, wow, this is first edition AD&D compatible, you might be correct, but that's your judgment. And that's the item that I'm working on. That is the item that I'm working on with Tracy Lesh, and I hope you like it. And Tracy Lesh's artwork will be good. 1A says you put some money into Palladium recently. Very cool. Rifts and Palladium Fantasy. The only Palladium game that I own, other than TMNT and Other Strangeness, just because, you know, that's a kind of a valuable book these days, is Robotech. I would love to play a Macross game. I don't want Genesis Climber Muspedia and Southern Cross and all that horrible mashed up stuff. Just play the Macross saga in Robotech if someone ran it. I would love that. I love giant robots. I love the drama. I love the J-pop of Macross. Plus, do I know if Heidi has Ache-Fuel? Ach-Fuel. Does Heidi have Ach-Fuel? I don't know what Ache-Fuel means, but a schedule for this year's GaryCon? I don't know. I tried to get people, like, I spent like a long time was that what it was? I'm just gonna, like, I just hard refreshed the page when I got over here, so maybe it's more now. No, it's still saying 6766. Greetings, Chris. They did, Mobius. They very much do. But FASA released some tech books that, like, a lot of people hated, but I loved, for BattleTech, that had a lot of cool experimental tech and stuff like that. And I realized that with a little bit of a nudge, you could make you could do Macross emulation in BattleTech, not just, okay, well, I mean, you could get the mechs a lot closer. This is like in the mid 90s, early 90s even. And I posted it on Rec Games Mecca, the Usenet group. Oh, that made people angry. They were like all BattleTech fans. Oh, that made them angry. But I wanted to run a Macross game using BattleTech because everybody understood BattleTech. But if I used all the high-tech weapon stuff and I built like all the Veritech models, I used arrow missile launchers whenever I could instead of the BattleTech LRMs, Thunderbolt missiles. I had so much fun. And nobody wanted to play. They're like, that doesn't make any sense in BattleTech. And I was like, it's not BattleTech. We're using MechWarrior as a framework. This is set in the Macross universe. And nobody wanted to play. So I put a lot of effort into something that nobody ended up playing. And that sucked. So I don't know if they added a new tier, Death Angels. I don't. Octagon, I think you mean the Invids? The Invalids. The $50 tier? Well, I think when a tier fills up, like myself and Doomsword Deathmaster got the last couple of $50 tiers. So when they're filled up, they're filled up. Are there even mechs in the older Scrolls BattleTech? No, BattleTech doesn't have a mech monopoly. Not at all. Not at all. It's kind of a funny history, and I think I've told you guys this, but so here's the crazy thing that happened with BattleTech and why there were the Macross mechs appearing in BattleTech first. So, right about the time in the mid 1980s that Karl Maychek went to Japan and saw and was impressed by Macross, and saw and was impressed by Genesis Climber Mospedia, and saw and was impressed by RDF Southern Cross, and decided he wanted to start negotiations and porting them in. At almost exactly that same time, Jordan Wiseman and his dad went on a trip to Japan to look for the next big thing to import. So they went to Japan. They saw these Macross designs. Everybody was grabbing the Macross designs because nobody in Japan really knew about importing them into the States. Whoever was doing Transformers at that time grabbed the Macross Valkyrie for Jetfire. Because the VF variable fighters, they could transform. So Jordan Wiseman and his dad came back to the United States, and they looked around and they found out who was importing all the cool model kits. And it was a company called 20th Century Imports. And they went to them and said, hey, can we have a license to use those images and designs and stuff? And 20th Century Imports said, well, we've got a license to do it, so we'll sub-license it to you. All TCI had a license to do was import model kits and art books and toys. They didn't really have the license to the designs. Well, right about that time, Karl Maychek and Harmony Gold had finished up their negotiations with Big West and Bandai and all the creators of these cartoons to bring to the United States. Well, lo and behold, they show up and they're like, hey, kids, Robotech. And a bunch of gamers like, hey, BattleTech. And it was like virtually simultaneous. And the Dougram stuff. Yes, we can't forget the Dougram stuff because there's Dougram mechs in there too. And so what happened next was things turned pretty litigious pretty fast. Harmony Gold went to FASA and said, look, we have the license to distribute this stuff. Well, FASA held up their own contract and said, we have the license to distribute this stuff. And Harmony Gold felt that there was a lot of product confusion. And what we wound up with was a few times Harmony Gold sued FASA. Now, at this point, FASA has done really well. They have the license to the Star Trek role-playing game. They've done a couple of movie licenses. They actually did a Last Starfighter tactical combat space game. They did a Top Gun tactical fighter game. And so there was this back and forth over who had the rights to use this. Harmony Gold said, that's not a good contract. We have the contract. FASA said, hey, our contract was before yours. Harmony Gold countered with, well, that contract should never have been signed. TCI doesn't have the rights. And nobody in Japan, other than saying, yeah, we signed one for TCI and we signed one for Harmony Gold, would really step up. So this was an American court case that went on a long time. Harmony Gold has deep financial pockets compared to a little role-playing game company from the Midwest. So as soon as the judge says, look, y'all both got contracts, y'all can both use this, figure out the product identity stuff yourself. Here comes Harmony Gold right after the lawsuit had been settled and sues them again and sues them again and sues them again, dragging them further and further down. Finally, in 91-ish, things come to a head, and FASA says to the judge, look, can you dismiss this with prejudice? Which means basically Harmony Gold can never come back and sue FASA again because they're killing them. Judge looks at it and says, fine, I'm dismissing this with prejudice. Or I'm fining for FASA with prejudice, but basically says, y'all can't sue them anymore. It's over. Get out. And one of the things that FASA had been defending themselves with, is if you go and you look at the evolution of BattleTech art, from where they clearly just cut and pasted it from Macross model kits or traced over it. And it's obvious in places in the early modules and supplements where they were doing that. The art gets abstract, not great. You see more greeblies and bumps on battle mechs. They're still identifiable as Marauders and Riflemen and Warhammers and so on and etc. But it's definitely been changed somewhat. And FASA is making the claim, artistically, we have changed it 30%. That is 30% our own design. 30% our own design. Judge said, you know what? This is 30% your own design, plus you got a contract, plus you, Harmony Gold, are vexatious litigants. So I'm throwing this out. And Harmony Gold said, fine. Harmony Gold had produced their own cartoon show called Exo Squad, which involved powered armor and things are called E-frames. At a toy show, the summer after, Harmony Gold shows off prototypes of their new E-frame. and it is the Mad Cat from BattleTech. The knees bent forward, and it's 30% different. Basically, they flipped a middle finger to FASA and said, you want to play the 30% game? We can play the 30% game, and we can sell toys. We can sell BattleTech toys that are just a little bit different. FASA, despite having won the court case, had to back down. And at that point, and I'm going to try and do this from memory, but at that point, the Locust, Stinger, Wasp, Valkyrie, Thunderbolt, Battlemaster, Marauder, Rifleman, Warhammer. Oh my gosh, I know I'm missing some. Wolverine. Oh, there's another one, LRM-10 in a PPC 55-tonner. Has a ridiculous entry in the technical manual because it says that the mech came out in like 2005. What was that? Griffin. All of those designs visually vanished. They vanished from source books. They vanished from miniature casting. They went away, and they've never come back. Back in 2015, 2016, it was rumored that they had finally come to terms with Harmony Gold, that Catalyst Game Labs and Harmony Gold sat down and said, it hurts hobbyists and it hurts enthusiasts that we can't use these. And there was much happiness. We were going to see the return of the curvilinear Marauder, the standard double barrel rifleman, the Archer, the Crusader, the Longbow. All the original Macross designs were going to come back. And at the 11th hour, licensing or something like that, it fell through. And we'll never, ever, 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 ever see those in all likelihood. And that's why, once upon a time, the Macross mechs existed in BattleTech and in Robotech. By the way, Dr. Octagon, the best thing to do with a Locust is to rip out the machine guns and either add 2 more medium lasers or 4 small lasers in addition to the medium laser. Just don't even use the machine guns. There's not a heat issue. You're doing 1 to 3 on heat to damage. And then you've got the medium laser. Connect. There was a Battle Mech Center in Chicago. You could play a VR Battle Mech game. My friend Eric, God rest his soul, love you and miss you, brother, who worked on MechWarrior 2. They actually got invited out from Westwood Studios. Activision sent them up to Chicago, and they got to play for free for hours on the virtual Battle Mechs. And he said, I think he once sent me a picture of it, but I don't have it anymore via email. He said he had a silk bomber jacket with the BattleTech logo for the virtual reality BattleTech Center on it. He got a lot of swag. So that's that is an interesting story there. He never got around to telling me how, and this is one of those. The gold. It's in the moments. But deep inside the coat, everybody at Activision who worked on MechWarrior 2 loved the Macross battle mechs, not so much the clan stuff. They had all watched Robotech. They were all weebs. They liked the Macross stuff. So according to Eric, there are sections of commented out code that if you go into the source of MechWarrior 2 and uncomment out the code and then recompile it and run it, you have Archer, Locust, Rifleman, Stinger, Marauder, Warhammer, all that jazzmatazz to 3025 standard, and you can have yourself a good old stompy 3025 Robotech time. But they hid it in the source code, and he said, we didn't tell people about that. We didn't say to gaming magazines, oh, by the way. And literally the last conversation I ever had with Eric in April of 2015, he said, I'm going to send you a CD with the MechWarrior 2 source code. We'll hack on it together and we'll get it working under 64-bit OSs. We'll get it working under Windows XP. We'll have fun. And he was gone a few weeks later. So I miss you, Eric. You owe me one, you son of a bitch. We're in the watershed. I can say son of a bitch. Yeah, Jack, Foss's designs didn't live up to Macross, but as I said, if you used the Tactical Handbook and Maximum Tech, you could make Macross mechs. You could play a cloud of missiles whooshing over hundreds of kilometers and all kinds of stuff. It took delicate balance to do it, but you could do it with those. But just by the book, out of the book, you couldn't. Yeah, Jake. I had people, before Eric passed away, I had people. So here's the thing. I don't want to turn this to discussion about Eric because it makes me sad. But I will say this. When Eric got really sick, now this was the only over the internet payment system that you could do other than emailing somebody and say, hey, send me your address and I'll write you a check, was PayPal. PayPal was new back then. And it was only, there was no GoFundMe. There was no, anything like that. There was no Subscribestar. There was no Buy Me a Coffee. Well, before Eric got SSDI, he got bad sick with what eventually took his life, hematocrosis, which is where basically your liver goes into turbocharge mode and starts dumping bilirubin into your blood faster than your body can process it, and it will eventually poison your brain. You will eventually cease to exist from it. And having met Eric and seen he was a solid guy, I said, hey, you know what you ought to do is let me set up a website and this thing called PayPal. Now, PayPal, you have to sell something on PayPal to get money. So you've got this 3D terrain generator program that you just knocked together. Why don't you send me a zipped copy of it, and I'll host it on my website, and people can PayPal donate to you, and I'll put the news out on the web, who you are and why they should do this. And he was like, that's really swell. You're an awesome guy. And we got to be friends. And when people started finding out that I knew the guy who wrote MechWarrior 2, they were all saying, hey, do you think he would release the source code for this so we could run MechWarrior 2 on, maybe put MechWarrior on really obscure systems, like they, Amiga users coming after me wanting the source code to compile and run on an Amiga computer or on an Atari ST or 68K Max, and so on and et cetera. Now, it's not impossible to do that kind of thing. Look at Doom. I mean, you can run Doom on the logic that runs inside this mouse nowadays. So, I don't fault, but it was like, oh my gosh, can you people just please donate to this very sick man? and not to, I mean, Activision was like more so today than back then. But Activision back then was pretty litigious. I think if there had been a source code leak, they'd have been pretty unhappy about it. So no, I never got to see it. So rest in peace wherever you are, Eric. I love you and I miss you. We have stuff coming up this week that's AD&D related. Tomorrow, I am releasing a couple of videos. In addition to the live stream we're doing Tuesday. We're going to be back tomorrow on Tuesday live. But tomorrow, we are doing 2 videos. Not about the debacle, the OGL debacle, which means they'll probably get like 300 views apiece, but that's life. Tales of Tabletop Triumph, the next Tales of Tabletop Triumph, and it's going to be a 3-fer. It's probably not going to be that long, but it is going to be 3 separate tales that you guys have submitted. And listen, if you come over onto the Discord, like if you join us on the Discord, yeah, we have a Discord. And you go down to the bottom, there's a Tales of Tabletop Triumph. There's a submissions and a discussion area where you can put your Tales of Tabletop Triumph stories or talk about episodes that we've done. And if you're wondering, what even are you talking about, Tales of Tabletop Triumph? Well, I'll tell you. There's a lot of angst about bad things that happen at your RPG table, right? Like, yeah, Bob said his fighter was in love with my wife's paladin, and it turns out Bob actually had a crush on her and was like sending her genitalia photographs over the internet. Kind of horror stories, The DM hated me because X and would kill my character every time I created a new one. These guys were all Seattle Seahawk fans and hated my character because I was a Raiders fan, whatever. But there's too much of it. There's too much negativity. We need a voice of positivity. I met my best friends gaming. It was the most fun we'd ever had. It was their first time playing, and now they love D&D. Or whatever role-playing game. The game doesn't matter. Tales of Tabletop Triumph is all about positive experience at the table. And that is what we're going to do. That is what we're going to focus on. Fun and funny tales. Not fun and funny because somebody got mortally embarrassed and they had a horrible time, but you thought it was funny. No. Positivity. That's what Tales of Tabletop Triumph is. And I try and put out a Tales of Tabletop Triumph every week. I'm trying to build up steam to where I could probably do a couple a week. If I did a couple a week or 3 a week or one every day, I'd be out of material, right? So I've got to kind of string it along. But hopefully what I'm hoping is you guys will see it. You guys will be inspired. You guys will spread the good word, and more people will come and more people will share that stuff and their stories of glory. And I'll be able to entertain you guys with those. So that's going to happen. Also, a D&D video is coming tomorrow, and it's probably going to be a little bit of a listicle about things you didn't know about the AD&D Monster Manual. That's coming tomorrow. Later this week, we're going to start our definitive series on creating character classes. Be a 10 or 15 minute video, and we're going to focus just on the creation of a character from rolling up their stats all the way to the beginning. It's going to be awesome. So all that stuff's coming. And then Wednesday night, I think, I could be wrong, I'll have to talk to Kyle, maybe, possibly, hopefully, this week in the evening on Wednesday, we'll be back to wrap up Classic Traveler, which has been on hiatus since just before the end of the year. Share your story. You can just do it over on the Discord, Elfbait. We got a Discord. You can just come over there and let me see if I can share this. All right. Invite people. Never expire. All right. So there you go. You can come and join us over on the Discord. And you can tell your story there. Hey, 6731. You guys get that that's $270 left. We can make it tonight. We can make the next goal. Red J, greetings. Good to see you. So, yeah, share your stories. Share your stories. Share your stories of tabletop triumph. And the more I get, the more I share. And the more I share, the more I'll get. But I'm just going to keep feeding the algorithm, guys. I don't think Wizards of the Coast is going to do anything stupid. But we're going to see. We're going to see. But all that's coming this week. That's all stuff I'm doing. So live shows Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday, barring any real life stuff getting in the way. Because let me tell you what, day goes by, no videos from me, no live streams from me. Something's going on. Something's happening. At the very least, if I'm of a mind, if it's not too bad, I will let you guys know on Twitter. I am _Dungeon Delver on Twitter. Something else I'm working on is, did you know you can support us on Subscribestar and on Patreon? I'm working on catching up with stuff on Patreon. I've got a lot of irons in the fire right now, but my Patreon patrons, look for some special stuff coming your way very, very soon. Very, very soon. Jimmy Invictus, I'm convinced RPG horror stories are recycling the same sin. I don't know if RPG horror stories is, but the people who read them are. Now, I'm not going to name any names because let me tell you what they do is it's a good gig. It's all they do. Like, they don't have any other content. Like, you know, this guy does not like, I'm going to do RPG horror stories, but I'm also going to talk about my love of the game. You know, I'm going to do RPG horror stories, but I'm also going to talk about painting miniatures. No, their gig is just talking about horror stories. All right. It's a rush field and the niche is pretty crowded. 7 times out of 8. 6 times out of 7. I'll put one of them on just for S&Gs, puttering around my office to have noise on in the background. And I'll hear 3, 4, 5 stories, and I'll go over to the next guy, and he's just reading the same ones. Different voice, different opinions about what happened, but it's the same stuff, you know? Guy shows up to my game. He seems kind of out of sorts, and he's panting. Turns out he robbed the liquor store on the corner from, you know, this guy. Next guy. One of my players showed up after committing a felony. It turns out he robbed the liquor store on the corner. Next guy. My player had a surprise for all of us. It turns out the liquor store on the corner was robbed by him. You know, and it's just the same stories over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's a good grift. Don't get me wrong. One of them has like 42,000 subs on his channel, okay? I'm not to 4,000 subs yet. And I don't know if I'm going to get there now that I don't have Wizards of the Coast constant screw-ups and bell-end maneuvers to complain about. So, you know, it just may settle into the high 30-something hundreds and sit there until this time next year when it slowly crawls again. Right? Hey, Ashen Walls. Good to see you. Gamers going their own way. Slycanthrope brings to mind, there is nothing truly novel in existence. Every new idea has some sort of precedent or echo from the past. Very thoughtful, very thought-provoking, absolutely. So yeah, it's just the same stuff, the same horribleness over and over and over again. And honestly, it doesn't shock me anymore. Like, you know, hey, this guy kept putting his creepy fetish into the game. You know, dare you enter my enchanted forest? You guys know the meme, right? Rob one liquor store and they never let you forget it. Not for about 20 years, they don't. I say howdy all the time. But my hope, and Cal hits on this, I want folks to try out old D&D. I want to entice you in to play classic D&D, to get interested in it, because so many of you folks have said in the comments, and I want to, as an aside real quick, I am so sorry I have not followed your guys. You drowned me with a fire hose. I was like, I'm going to respond to every comment. It'll be easy. I'll just stay on top of it. And then like after the first breakthrough video launched and it got 60,000 views in like a very short amount of time, and it's got hundreds of comments, like I'd get to the bottom of the screen commenting, go back up to the top and say, okay, show me the ones I haven't responded to. And the buffer would just fill up to the point that my gaming PC would start to jank out. And your outpouring of support has been awesome. I will do my best to comment on your comments. But the classic D&D appreciation that people have said, and there's people who said, like, I've known about D&D my whole life. I've never played it, but you talking about classic D&D has gotten me interested in it. So I'm going to go back and watch your old videos. I'm like, hell yeah, just don't watch the really old ones because they're not good. That's why I'm kind of trying to update things and make it a little more bite-sized than 5-hour live streams of me going, okay, here's the rule book. Can you see that where he's talking about armor class? You know, don't go too far back. Don't go too far back. No, you can go back and watch all the old stuff. But I want to bring that. I want to be an ambassador of original and advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I said on the influencer video that yes, I am an influencer. Everyone who plays and promotes the game and gets people's eyes on it, even though we don't do the duck face pose in front of the dice rack at the comic store, we're influencers. I'm trying to influence you to play classic Dungeons and Dragons. I don't get paid influencer money because Wizards of the Coast doesn't give a damn about classic D&D. In fact, they hate it and have said so. through gritted teeth. It's just that it's a little problematic, don't you think? They worked with PBS NewsHour to do a hit piece back in January, which is what started this. I wasn't even paying attention to what Wizards of the Coast was doing. My gripe was their BS with that. If you go back to the 1st of January, my first hot take video was me waking up one morning and complaining about them, just holding my mobile phone right here, doing a short. And then later that afternoon, put my phone down on the console in my car and drove around and shared my thoughts. So yeah, I don't think they're going to do much in the way of paying me or rewarding me for influencing people to play good old Gygaxian Dungeons and Dragons. All right. Now I'm going to say something that's going to get me in a lot of trouble. All right. Well, I'm going to say a couple of things that are going to get me in a lot of trouble. A couple of controversial things. I'm influencing you, Luther. Play advanced D&D. Oh, by the way, Luther, our live streams are going to focus on Lost City this week. This week, Lost City starts, buddy. You should be happy about that. Don't know if they'll start tomorrow night, but they definitely will be this week. Patreon goal, Bill does duckface. $1,000. Edit your Patreon to $1,000 and I'll do duckface poses. Anyway, so Lost City Basic, Dave Mills, that's right. We're going to start talking about it. Deep dive dissection of module, as I have done with all of the classic AD&D modules in 2022. Yay, Ashen Walls, woohoo! Got you some AD&D. That is awesome. I love to hear that. That's great. It's going to be a fun ride. But I want you guys to experience it, and I want you to love it as much as I do, because there's gold in here. All right. There's no judgment. There's no prejudice. There's no gatekeeping here. There's just a love of classic AD&D, and I want to share that with you guys. And I hope that you will. I hope that you will love it as much as I do. All right, because that's what I want to stress. Do I like Osric? Okay, that jumps back to the hot take. That jumps back to the controversial thing. The real hot take and the real controversial thing is people say, why don't you play Osric? Why don't you play Swords and Wizardry? How about OSE? How about White Hack? How about White Box Essentials? How about my thing where I get so reductivist that you roll 1d6 for every stat and there's only 2 stats, and you roll 1d2 for hit points? And you say cast a spell if you're a magic user, or you say stab if you're a fighter, and that's it. I call it the transparent box. It's on just a single piece of cling film that you can see through. For some reason, amongst a subset of game designers, there were these races to niches that they created. Some went to this ultra hyper sexualized, hyper violent, on purpose, by the way, for shock value. Like saying, this is how D&D was, man. This is how it was back in the day. No, it wasn't. A bare breast or 3 in a D&D rulebook does not equal whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is you're promulgating, okay? I'm no moral pearl clutcher. You do it if what you want, but that's not how it really was. And then you know, guys saying, well, I'm working on a stripped down version of chainmail that blah, 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 blah. It should really only be 1 or 2 pages of rules. That's how it really was. No, that's not how. There was just this rush to weird fringes and reductivism in the capital T-H-E, capital O-S-R. And I never liked it, and I never cared for it, and I never wanted anything to do with it. You want to make a module that you have to publish under Swords and Wizardry or OSRIC, but, wink and a nod, it's for OD&D, or you want to expand on that, that's great. You want to make your own game that's like one of those, that's great. But the capital THEOSR is not something I'm really a part of. This is what I love. Okay? This, AD&D and original D&D. And yes, some basic. I like some basic D&D. And if it's, if through one of the better retro clones, like OSRIC, like Swords and Wizardry, is how you can get your stuff published, more power to you. I'm just saying, the stuff that I love is in these pages. It's not the rules. Okay? It's not just the rules, I should say. It's how Gary and Dave and Tom Moldvay and Dave Cook and Dr. Holmes, it's how they presented them. They talked to our 11-year-old selves back in 1970 dippity-doo. Whether it was 74, 77, 78, 80, 81, they talked to our 11-year-old selves like we had a brain in our heads, like we understood what we were doing, like we understood what we were reading. And in the occasions where we needed a little bit of a nudge, there was a glossary. So that's what I like, guys. That's what I like. And that's what I promote around here. Now, I have held up, yes, on the screen. I'm not bagging on anybody's specific work here, okay? I'm not naming any names right now. But yes, we're going to talk about Swords and Wizardry one of these days. Because Matt's a great guy, and this is a fun interpretation of the OD&D rules. So we're going to get into this one day. I'm keen to look at OSE. All right? This is not minimalist or reductivist. It's a good reinterpretation of the rules, I'm told. So we're going to get into that one day. So that's what I've got. That's where I'm at. That's my controversial, salty attitude. That is my hot take on things D&D. Because I kind of feel like that you can still get the real, I'm not crazy about the idea of giving Wizards of the Coast any money. Not right now. I get it, right? I get it. Have I tried to get Dave Cook on the show? I'm friends with Helen Cook on Facebook. I might. How long before you get a Sean K. Reynolds? Never, ever, 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 ever will I give Sean K. Reynolds a nanosecond of time and discussion about Greyhawk other than to say he got it wrong. He got it very wrong. He got it so wrong. Frankly, anyone not Gary got it wrong. It's not Gary or Rob or Jim Ward's early stuff. Post Gary at TSR. Dave and Jorge, you guys are close to being right. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to say something positive about the OSR stuff. There's a lot of people that have an OD&D set or copies that I absolutely understand if those are antiques, if they're autographed, if you just literally don't want to risk them crumbling apart in your hands and using Osric and Swords and Wizardry. I totally get it. All right. And again, Osric and Swords and Wizardry are awesome in my book. I think they're fantastic. My name's in the Osric book. I had very, very little to do with it. I did like 3 monster entries or 4. I did like the Sphinx types, spiders, and snakes. That's literally... Stuart was casting about asking people to do stuff, and I said, I'll do Sphinxes, spiders, and snakes for you. Because and Certus, I do not, like, don't run out and buy like a Black Blade Osric or something like that and go, this will help Bill out. It sure won't. Although I do love going into game stores. I've seen Osric on the shelf at Barnes & Noble before, and picking that book up and flipping it open and seeing my name in it on a book, or in a book on a shelf at Barnes & Noble, just kind of blows my mind. It's like, thanks to D&D, ages and ages ago, and I've got the issue of Information Week behind me somewhere. Fuchsia, I can't afford that to get an NPC, to define an NPC, and I define myself anyway. But anyway, no, I wrote an article that appeared in print in an information systems industry magazine called, was it Info Week? Was it Info Week? I don't remember, but it's on the shelf behind me. And after I got off work one day, because I was actually 9 to 5 gainfully employed for a couple of brief periods around 2005, before I became self-employed, on call, yada, yada. And after work, I drove straight over to Barnes & Noble and got the issue of Info Week when it dropped out. And that just like, man, flipping open that issue and seeing my name in it, I was like, wow. Man, I just had to sit down in the Barnes & Noble. I felt like I'd made it. Now, I've written other stuff since then. I've written much bigger articles, but I never got I wrote to my editor, please send me this issue of the magazine. Sure thing. And they would send me like a PDF pre-press. And I'm like, no, I want the magazine. We'll have to talk to somebody in publication, but I'll try and get you one. Crickets. With all these articles that I wrote. Info World, Info Week. I think it was Information Week, Rod. I think it was Information Week. You super chat me, I collect the funds, then the funds project in a lump to the super chats. No, you guys super chat me, the funds go into my Google account, and in 2 months, Google gives me money, is how that works. Slycanthrope, if you Google my name, like Bill Sylvie Info Week or Bill Sylvie Information Week, you might find some pieces written by me. You're playing Skyrim the other day, the final quest for the Thieves Guild. Yes, I remember that. Computer Shopper was awesome. And the... Okay, here's the thing, Fuchsia. If you send me $100, send it because I need $100, and I always need $100. If you guys want to send it to Heidi and Eric directly, do that. Okay, but don't send me the money. Send it to them. You guys get the praise, not me. Things have gotten a little kind of spread out, guys. We're gonna go like maybe 10 more minutes here. If you guys want to super or anything, that's absolutely fine. At $250, you can describe an NPC. You'll super chat me 100 now to start the fund if I'm interested. Yeah, I would. You guys should get together like on the Discord or something and come up with one to do it rather than send me the money, because it will sit. Like, I don't have the money to kick it out immediately, and it will sit in my Google account until March or April. I don't remember when, but I won't get the money from Google in time to whip around and give it to Eric and Heidi. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Anyway, yes, Computer Shoppers, 2 inches thick, and the information that was in them price-wise was good for the entire month. I sincerely wish there was a Computer Shopper archive. I do. You could buy a Computer Shopper in like January, and you were good till about August. I mean, you could buy them month in and month out, but this was even in the go-go 90s. Yeah, Dave, exactly. I just cut me out of the middle if you guys want to do that. Google takes 30% of the money you guys send me. Yes, do what Doomsword says. Talk about it in the Discord if you want a Dungeon Delver NPC. Are we not going to discuss Fallout? I've been nursing a rant on Bethesda, doesn't it? No, Bethesda doesn't understand the BOS as from the Fallout ISO games. I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I'm already in trouble with people probably for not jumping in all the way to the deep end of the OSR saying I love it. Setting aside bugs in the games and a few story problems, a few plot problems, Bethesda have created a Fallout universe that is pretty okay. Here's the thing. Fallout itself was supposed to be a spiritual successor to Wasteland. I know people who played Wasteland who said straight up, hey, these guys don't understand Wasteland at all. This is terrible. It never had this 1950s aesthetic. It was not supposed to be this way. This is awful. You guys don't get like they don't get it. It's an okay game, I guess, but this stuff with like, you know, the super mutants and FEV and 1950s aesthetic and, you know, old blues music playing in the intro, you guys don't get it. All right, this is no Wasteland. We don't like this. And then when Bethesda bought the franchise and released Fallout 3 and then Brotherhood of Steel and all the little add-ons and whatnot, there were people saying, this isn't Fallout. You guys don't get it. Yada, yada. Same as it ever was. same as it ever was, same as it ever was. If I can get, I'll mark it on your map. Jorge says there's an Osric wiki online and I'm named there. Yep. People complain Fallout wasn't Wasteland. People complain Fallout 3 wasn't Fallout, but hey, Fallout Tactics wasn't Fallout. People complained about that. You go watch like retrospectives of Fallout, and many reviewers on YouTube will very tongue-in-cheek say, except we're going to ignore Fallout Tactics. Disagree, Dr. Octagon. Wasteland did have a sense of humor to it. Wasteland was based on mercenary spies and private eyes. Can you complain about it? Everybody should complain about Fallout 76. Fair enough, Dr. Octagon. Not the same kind of humor. And hello, Starlaw. Good to see you. Well, I'm going to wrap up, guys. The best way to donate without Mama Susan getting a cut, you can support us on Patreon, Subscribestar. You can do a direct donation to PayPal, or buy me a coffee. I have a coffee fund, buymecoffee.com/ wait, which is it? buymecoffee.com/bsolby. But anyway, with that said, guys, tomorrow night, probably we're going to start Lost City. Luther, I hope that makes you happy. We're going to start Lost City. Tomorrow at 9, we're going to play first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to have miniatures. We're going to have terrain. We're going to have fun. It's going to be a blast. And Wednesday night, Kyle, are you doing something Wednesday night, or are we just gonna gab Wednesday night? You let me know. And Thursday night, gonna be back to this. We're gonna be back to Lost City. Friday night, more Lost City, and then on the back half of Friday night, of course, we will be playing Gamma World. So have an absolutely wonderful evening, guys. Thank you all so very much for stopping by. It has been an absolute stone groove. Thank you for the super chat earlier. That is always appreciated. It gets here when it gets here, guys. It gets here when it gets here. So yeah, wife's birthday tomorrow. You're doing lunch. Happy birthday to B, Viking Hat. Happy birthday. Everybody say happy birthday. And yeah, we're gonna get out of here, and I'm gonna go play some first edition AD&D tonight. Have a wonderful evening, guys. Let me just get over here. Now have a wonderful evening. Peace.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle, way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.